You're listening to Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. Small town feel with big time ideas. After all, you are entitled to Brad's opinion. Here's your host, Brad Allard.
Yes. It's almost like spring. Today I have Collin Gregory, who rode his bad motor scooter.
I did.
You never,
I did. It's
that
such
ever
a great
song?
day to do that.
You don't know that song, do you? Bad motor scooter.
Is that from a Bad
Sammy
Motor
Hagar.
Finger? That's a
Yeah.
all right.
Sammy Hagar.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. Bad motor scooter. I don't sing it for you because people have requested me not to. But anyway, we're.
Karaoke Allard would be great.
Merry Christmas. I remember one time at some post-prom thing, my wife and I were both, chaperoning, and they had karaoke. And I get up there and start singing a song, and I'm thinking, hey, that sounds all right. And then I get to see Robert going, no, nah. And I heard it, and it records so you could hear yourself later. And I was like, oh, my Lord.
You know, if I may, if I remember correctly, back to the year 1996, I carried a man on a chair through a crowd of teenagers to place him up on a stage to perform in front of said teenagers.
I remember that.
Does
the
it does.
Teacher Talent Show was one of
Teacher Talent Show.
I loved that. It was
excellent.
one of the highlights. And that particular one, I remember because, and I believe I got you and your buddies' shirts are a little too small so you could show off the cut.
It was the style in the 90s.
And so I go in there, and that was one of my favorite ones because I can remember the songs I did. And after a while, first couple times I did it, I realized as long as the band sounds good, it doesn't matter. The kids are there to see me act silly, not knock off the notes like Sammy Hagar or something like that.
Very true.
Even if I sang great, the effect of seeing your teacher up there rocking and rolling was the whole thing.
I will say it was one of the best entrances of the Teacher Talent Show. Aside from maybe the Jack Gregory motorcycle.
That's hard to beat.
Yeah, very true.
How do we get on this anyway? I don't know.
Sorry.
I know. Well, I'm going to run through the sponsors real quick because we got lots to talk about. And I got a new sponsor starting
awesome.
today. Good. So, thank you to Otto at our place. How many times have you been there? Like 100?
So many.
Yeah.
I have belt loops that are appreciative of Otto.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because of my DBU schedule, I miss my every other Thursday problem solving with the men kind of thing. The men in our Sunday school class meet at 6:30, and I'm on the road by then, particularly when 20 is like it was today, which I'm glad the men in my Sunday school class were not in the back seat as I was navigating that road. Let's just say it was not deacon-like language. But anyway, that's a different story. Anyway, but our place is a great place. And I always enjoy the fact I walk in there and I know most of the staff now. I mean, not, intimately or anything like that, but they know my name. I know their name. I know, okay, this one has kids. This one just got married, that kind of thing.
It's just like Norm from Cheers where you walk in and...
I'm beginning to resemble Norm in more than one way these days. So anyway, same with Gina's. I really enjoy Gina's as well.
I love Gina's.
And I do business, so to speak. There's 3 places I do it. Our place, Gina's, or Daydream Coffee.
Oh, Daydream's wonderful.
Where I was there
did
this
a great
morning.
job with that.
I was there this morning. I had some time to kill for a change between class and show, and I went and sat and had coffee. And it's a good place. I've been hoping to get them as a sponsor, but even if they don't come around, it's great coffee, so I can always throw that out there. Anyway, also thank you to our buddies over at Wild Cigar. They do a lot of good things for the community as well. I'll be seeing Nathan in a couple of days. I like to go by the sponsors that I can go by at least once or twice a month, maybe once a month,
right?
Once every 6 weeks, just to kind of let them know that I'm not just cashing a check, but I really do want to know what's going on with their business, right?
Absolutely.
So know what to say, what they got coming up. And Wild is always having these cigar specials, and they always have vendors come through. They're like a regional stopping place for vendors who want to debut a new cigar or a new type or whatever else, or promote a certain cigar.
Right.
And as far as, everything else about the place, it's a good place to go do business. I mean, you're not going to get hassled over there.
I have to stop by because a cigar hanging out your mouth as you ride the motorcycle, there's nothing cooler than that, I think.
And, and you get a drink there or whatnot, but it's not a roadhouse or anything like that. It's a reputable place. You could take your parents. Anyway, also, thank you to Old Pro Roofing with John Williams, 817-734-2756. This is a perfect day to get your roof inspected because the weather's good and you're not having to deal with, an emergency situation. And I had an incident about 2.5 years ago where it rained so hard that it was leaking through the chimney
Oh,
area.
wow.
And my roof was fine, except for that flashing on the chimney area was not quite flush enough. And he came and checked it out, and he said, "Well, here's the problem." I said, what's it going to cost to fix? Oh, I fixed it. It was just like,
That's awesome.
It was no big deal.
Yeah.
And that's it. End of the conversation. He'll tell you what you need, or he'll tell you if you're fine. And particularly dealing with insurance these days, you need somebody that can make the point for you.
Right.
Because some of these insurance companies are not as cooperative as others. Also, thank you to Jeff Kelly. I had him on about 3 weeks ago. We were talking about Johnson County area real estate, and we're still moving some of this real estate around. We're still active. The rates and whatnot haven't come down yet as much as they hope to, but he'll tell you can always readjust your rates, but you can't readjust your asking or selling price,
Right.
or your buying price. And so if you want to buy a house, he would suggest get it, and then if it's 2 or 3 years from now and the rates come down or whatnot, you can refinance, which I've done with Sammy Joe Campbell and Candy Gal at least twice. I could think of the top of my head we had some home repairs.
Right.
We also had some college bills and things like that. Also, well, anyway, let me give you Jeff's phone number. Back up, Jeff. I was started rambling. I want to go back to Jeff here. He's paying for this, doggone it. 817-781-0546 or Jeff at jeffkellyrealty.com. He works at the Wethington Agency here in town. It's off of Renfro, so you could walk in and see a real live human being. That's always a good thing.
I like Jeff.
Well, yeah, Jeff is a very personable guy. I mean, I've gotten to know him through this sponsorship, and I've seen him around city events at the chamber and whatever else. And he's just a very pleasant person. So it's not like, well, let me put it this way. You're going to spend a lot of time with a real estate agent when you're looking for a house. So it's good to have somebody who's compatible.
Yep, absolutely.
Also, now back to Hot Works. All right. And Michelle Humphrey. I saw her at the chamber event, and she's doing well.
Good.
Hot Works is doing well.
Awesome.
It's got 11 different workout formats, all on infrared, and so it's easier on your joints and muscles. A lot of people think you're going in there and you're going to be working like in a steam room or something like that. It's not really the case. It's infrared, so you're not really. It's not so much that you're getting hot as much as that the muscles and the tendons or whatever are getting warm, and so it helps you with the workout, and you don't feel quite so beat up afterwards like you do when you're throwing iron around.
So, which one's your favorite?
As you can tell, I may not be a common visitor. I would say probably the stationary bike.
Okay.
Because you can be occupied while you do it and that kind of thing. So that's always good. She has also like yoga and Pilates and all the rest. So it's always good. And thank you to, come on, there it is. Logo Life Magazine. Saw Tiffany at the chamber event as well.
Yes.
And she's doing fine. She's got a magazine coming out in about 5 or 6 days. And I neglected to ask her what it's about. We got talking about other things. But I met her new assistant, things like that. And
yes. And we at the PD are actually doing something with her. So
really, what?
Yeah. I don't want to give away anything amazing yet, but we're gonna have the ability to promote a lot of our upcomings in local life, and she's helping us with a sponsorship, so that no taxpayer money is
no
coming
taxpayer
out.
money. So relax out there.
That's exactly right. Before we start getting all the.
I know you probably get this on social media some. Who paid for those donuts? Okay, that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And
well, actually, there's not a whole lot of donuts left over, so the evidence is pretty much gone before people can complain about it. But I get what you're saying.
They get that. When I was in the school district, I heard that kind of thing too. If we had pizza for lunch during this teacher thing, it was like, couldn't they just brought a sack lunch? Okay, let's go on to the next one before I get really cranky. Also, Burleson Buzz with Cody O'Brien. I use Burleson Buzz for my radio news updates. It's on at 9, 1, and 7:30 today, I think.
Nice.
Yeah, and I use a lot of his news. And so when I check that out, when you're driving around, it's just about 7 minutes normally, and that way you can kind of keep up with what's going on with the nonprofits and the local news and what's going on in the council and whatnot. And I get a lot of that material from the Burleson Buzz, so it's a very cheap subscription, so you ought to look into it. And I have a new sponsor today. And hopefully for a while, Medicare Counseling and Therapy LLC. It's here in Burleson. It's on the 3rd floor of the same building as Rio Mambo and the Rim.
Mm-hmm.
And I met Jerry Kavanaugh last week. Turns out I taught his kids like so many times. Did you graduate with his daughter Jenny? Is that ringing a bell?
Kavanaugh has a good ring to it.
Yeah. It'd be about maybe a year before you did, or 2 years roughly. But anyway, what he does is he helps people that are getting on Medicare to get on Medicare. Okay. And it's more than just here's how the form you fill out. It also provides like counseling services as well. I'm going to just read what he sent us because, when people get on Medicare, they're at a stage in life where other things are going on with them. Grief and loneliness and isolation, right?
Right.
Not everybody has family around and that kind of thing. So it's important to remember, I'm reading this from what he sent me, that prioritizing your mental health is vital to embracing a life of balance, peace, and fulfillment. At Medicare Counseling and Therapy, we offer compassionate support and expert guidance every step of the way. Our certified Medicare mental health provider team is dedicated to helping you embrace emotional well-being and a brighter future. And the best part of this when we met last week at Daydream, we was talking about this. I said, well, how do you get paid? Medicare pays.
Oh, nice.
Yes, it's the best part of this. It's a new benefit for Medicare recipients. Medicare pays for your sessions directly, and there is no deductible. So if you feel like you're in need, not just on how you access the system, but you have other aspects of at this stage of life. Medicare is going to pay for a lot of this. Okay, all of it says no deductible. At Medicare Counseling and Therapy, we envision a future where Medicare beneficiaries receive unparalleled mental health support. Again, Jerry, I'm going to digress here. I have another person next month that's coming on who talks about mental health, and I think it's really a good thing that we now are having these services like Jerry provides, because particularly my generation, we don't know how to navigate the mental health maze, if you will, about provisions and who pays, whatever else. Because in my generation, we didn't have mental health services. We just went nuts, or we just suffered in silence, or drank a lot, or whatever expedient we had. But my generation could use something like this, because if I told my parents, "Hey, you need to go to counseling," they wouldn't know. They might think of church counseling, but that's about it. Anyway. Sorry, Jerry, I digressed. We focus on providing accessible and personalized therapy for Medicare clients and counseling needs. They have office hours that serve the Burleson, Crowley, Fort Worth, Mansfield, and Arlington areas. And they use telehealth, so you can do it at home as well. Their office hours are Monday through Thursday and Saturday. I guess they take Fridays off. Monday through Thursday and Saturday from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. They're located at 295 East Renfro, 295 East Renfro on the third floor. Our office entrance is next to the Rio Mambo, so if you go there and you just take the office entrance right next to the Mambo, and the elevator will take you right up to it. So there you go.
Very nice.
Let's see. Well, he also gave the text, call, or email. The phone number 817-992-8034, or the email is Gerard. That's GERARD at MedicareCounselingandTherapy.com, and the website is MedicareCounselingandTherapy.com. Okay, that's a lot. But anyway,
that is a lot.
Well, I think it's a new sponsor. The people need to know exactly what he's offering. So if that took a little longer, well, sorry about that. Anyway, it's important, certainly, because my generation doesn't think of that automatically. Your generation, my kid, you're a little bit older than my son by about 12 years.
Okay.
All right. He graduated 2010.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So 14 years.
Okay.
Yeah, roughly.
Keep digging me that hole there. I appreciate it.
It's quite right. So back in the day, it's like that old Kevin Hart joke when some guy was giving a hard time, an old man giving a hard time. Says, hey, hey, Moses, what was he like? Yeah. But anyway, so they all know this. You know this. Right. And then, of course, in your ministry, you know this. But as far as my generation, we just toughed it out, and that's not always a good idea.
Yeah. And we see a lot of people that really should talk more about their mental health, and and getting the therapy that they need, and also with their bodies, and just it's a full everything, mind, spirit, and body. So
well, in my generation, admitting you need counseling was almost like admitting failure,
Right.
that you couldn't handle your problems, or that you weren't, mature or tough enough to handle your problems. And that's not a healthy attitude.
No.
I've come to learn the hard way. And so I very much support these kind of activities. And, as in the police business you're in, you see a lot of people that could probably use some mental counseling.
Yes. Yeah.
But anyway, let's talk about the police station.
Sure.
How's that going over there? Everybody's fun?
Things are moving right along. I know our wonderful council just approved a couple of $1 million more so that our officers get everything they asked for, everything they wanted. And I'm hoping that if I think it was Councilmember Russell had stated that he'd love to see groundbreaking this summer. And I really think that that staff took that to heart, and they're working their hardest to make that happen. And I would love to see, somebody with a shovel out there putting some work together and getting a hole started and getting that thing built. And it can't come soon enough.
Now, I saw what y'all posted, and I put that in the Burleson News segment on the radio, that basically it's gone to a 2-story building instead of one, and then there's been some other modifications, but really that's not what's causing the drive and cost. It's just the expense of building continues to rise.
Absolutely. I mean, every day we wait, it just gets more and more expensive. So
yeah, and also the fact is that it's like if you ever built a home, it's like when you start building, you think, well, I'd like to add this because I now think it's more necessary than I did before, and it's just going to add to the cost. And I'm glad that the council approved it. I know they had to postpone some street work, and I'm sure people got worked up about that a little bit because the streets. I mean, I see them working on Renfro, I see them working on Hidden Creek, and boy, they need it.
Yeah.
But I tell you, I found a road that's worse than anything in Burleson ever had. And when I go to Dallas Baptist, drive 20, I take the Mountain Creek Parkway exit, and it's all these warehouses up to, it's about 4 miles from 20 to the campus. That is the worst stretch of road you can ever imagine. It makes that strip on Dobson and 714 look like, a speedway. I mean, because we were talking about potholes so deep and cracks in the cement so deep.
Anywhere you have 18-wheeler traffic, you're going to have that. That bridge over at 917 is a perfect example. It's it's a lovely spot.
It is, isn't it? Well, anyway, I'm glad they did that. I know that streets are an important issue, but so is keeping your budget in one piece.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, this is the way it works. A lot of people think it all works like the federal government does. Just write them some more money. No big deal. No, in the council, you got to do with what you got.
Right.
And I support this move, and I hope everybody else does too, or at least is understanding why we have to support it, because we're long past the days where just a small police force could handle what's going on right here.
Exactly.
And it's not like a crime wave either. A lot of people think you're talking about police work. So much of it is not really crime related, is it? It's related. There's a lot of things that the police do that aren't strictly related to law enforcement in a sense.
Yeah. And community outreach and engagement is one of those aspects. We want to, humanize our officers so that we're not these big bag boogeymen that are out there to write you tickets and take you to jail. And actually was at the Business Expo this past weekend and bumped into a wonderful citizen. She had a booth there. We were talking, and she looked at me. She goes, I want to apologize because I've been making my kids afraid of cops. And I was like, okay. She's like, every time we see one, I go, oh, crud, there's a cop. And I slow down. And my kids, when they get in the car now, they're like, oh, we'll look out for cops for you, Mom. And she's like, I didn't realize just the fact that, just something that innocent, it goes to these kids' brains of like, the police are out there to do nothing but write you tickets and to,
I don't know how anybody speeds in this town, to tell you the truth. I mean, you get on Renfro, I'm going to get behind a truck or an old lady doing 25, right? And then in town, there's so many stoplights, I can't get a head of steam up to get a ticket. So that's okay. I guess that's your way of dealing with it. Just,
Well, I hate to tell you this, but they're all police informants that we put in large trucks, and we hire a ton of little old ladies with blue hair, and we just put them in cars, and we just say, "Hey, please enjoy your afternoon," and that keeps the speeding down, and that's a way of regulating traffic, thinking outside the box.
Yeah. So. Well, it's interesting because I lived here long enough to know that policing is at one point probably a bit more informal, but now you need a more professional police force
Yes.
because we're much more diverse and all that other business and much larger, and you're dealing with a different type of situation than you did in 1991.
Yes. Yes. And that's one of the big draws for the new building is the amount of training space that we're going to have and the amount of high tech training we're going to be able to put our officers in and possibly be able to bring in other agencies into train at our facility. So it's a multi-purposed and it's set up to really last as long as we possibly can. And you know how it is. You get a new computer and it's obsolete in a week, but hopefully this one will last us for a little bit.
It'll last for a while, and and there's all that business about substations. I remember talking with Victoria Johnson about that. Oh gosh, when the whole process was being talked about,
Right.
And it's I see that happening in the future sometime in the near future, but not today, I suppose, and that's fine. And it's a good thing though because. I think Billy and y'all are doing the best you can with the finances you have. I really do. I don't think there's a lot of amenities in there that could be considered to be frivolous. We're not talking about you're going to have like your own holodeck like they have in Star Trek. It'd be kind of neat, wouldn't it?
I would love that. That'd be really cool.
No, it's the thing is, and the reason I could relate to so much of this is because I've been along here at the BISD long enough to know about building schools that people like. Well, I went into this, we were taught in a barn. That was good enough for me. Why not for these kids kind of attitude? Like, that isn't the way it works. And, I remember, and some of us were upset when Centennial was built. It's so nice.
Right.
But, the response was, what do you want us to build something that's already in a state of decrepitness or whatever? You want the best.
Well, and, there's some tenured officers that we have there and very tenured on this that said, when I started, I walked in, they handed me a badge, a gun, and car keys, and they said, go do it. And you had very minimal training outside of the academy. And that's how you learned was on the job.
Like teaching.
And now we have so much training. Our officers are off to training constantly, and it's good. I mean, that's what you want is a well taught and well trained force.
Well, and it's like teaching because when I started teaching, I was thrown in the deep end of the pool. I was an emergency hire in the middle of the first semester. All right, so I walked in mid-October to seventh graders, and the only training I had been in college prior to that. I didn't go through in-service. I didn't do any of that other stuff. I was like, literally the chalk and eraser, and here is how you get to the copy room, and
right.
Let us know if you survive.
Sure. What's chalk?
Chalk, yes, I know. Yeah.
How was Moses?
Yeah. Okay. Funny. Anyway, the point is that we're not that kind of town anymore.
Yeah.
And we're not going to be that kind of town anymore. What is this thing on my phone? What is it? It's kind of jumped over. Josh, it says, are we still alive?
Working on it, yeah.
What happened?
Having an internet issue. I'm working to get that settled. We'll be live in just a sec.
Are we on the air right now?
Currently, no. We are recording, though.
Okay, we're recording. Well, what the heck? We'll keep recording.
Hey.
All right, well, because a lot of this will be on Apple and Spotify, and Taylor will knock out a couple of the...
Yeah, we can edit. We can edit the wrinkles.
All right, and also it'll be on the community radio. Now,
right.
I don't know which segment it will be. We'll have to find out. But I was just looking.
That's upsetting because my Moses joke was actually pretty funny. I mean, I was really kind of really hoping it would make the cut. But thank you. With the rim shot and everything.
Anyway. So I was got off track here, just noticing that. I'm going to let Taylor know what's happening.
Yeah, not a problem.
Anyway, there we go. Back to what we were talking about. As far as humor, everybody's seen your postings on your Facebook page.
Yes, sir.
I really did like that one about that underwater scene under the bridge in Hewlin with the shark fins.
Yes.
Is that the one you told me got 1.8 million views?
1.8 million views at this small tenure over a couple of days. So it was something that we've on multiple occasions that area of town floods out, especially that bridge, and we always have to shut down the roads, and we always and I feel for the people there, because that is the main thoroughfare for a lot of people to get home, and to get around it is a long venture back around town. They're gonna have to come all the way back out to Wilshire, drive all the way back around to John Jones, to Alsbury to get to the other side. So it's a venture and a half. So when we shut down that road, there's not a lot of fanfare for us doing so. And some people just thought that there wasn't enough water to shut it down. And so one of my officers sent me a photo and just pretty much said, hey, can you put this out there and let people know that we're shutting this down because there is a large amount of water. It's not safe to drive through. People are going to lose their lives if they try. And, that would be an easy way. That would be an easy fix. Just throw the photo out there and say, hey, here we go. But, I like comedic adventures. And so instead of doing that, I got the old Photoshop skills out and tossed a couple of shark fins. And somebody swears up and down the top left is a dolphin. I'm not saying whether it was or was not. But, a lot of people wanted to get out there and they wanted to pet that dog. And we talked about that the shutdown was not due to the high water, but due to shark infestation. And it decided to kind of go viral. And so there you go. See, top left-hand corner. I do think that's Flipper, but,
Are we back on internet now, Josh?
2 seconds out.
Ooh,
2 seconds.
I like that. That's really accurate.
Yeah. Well, anyway, normally we don't have these kind of issues. You ever have these when you're doing your podcast?
100,000%. But I also record beforehand, and then I hate to give away the trade secret, but I record beforehand, edit, and then post it live. So,
this is the value of live podcasting. Is these things? This is about like the 5th time that's happened in all the shows I've done. It really is it's very uncommon.
It's usually when you have your best guests on, because it's like the Joe Rogans of the world that are like, I can't get Allard to outdo me today.
Yes.
And so because I don't have Collin Gregory of the Burleson Police Department on my podcast, I'm going to have to just knock his internet out. And so there you go.
Okay.
There it is.
Well, as far as other humor, one of your more popular ones has been that Bad Guy Bingo.
Bad Guy Bingo has been really good. So we put out a new top 10. Actually, a lot of people wonder if the top 10 is actually a real thing, and it is. Each of the participants on the top 10, they have a felony warrant out for them. I've been asked a few times if putting the bingo together was a little bit of a too much of a knock on these people, but they all know. I know, but they all know that they have felony warrants. They know that they're wanted, and they know that they are being looked for by the police department. So they're not as innocent as some people may make them out to be. But when we put our top 10 list out, we would get a few people that would comment, a few people that would like, and a couple of shares, and it just wasn't getting the traction that we want. I mean, the whole point is to get these faces out there. And I think it was in December I decided that, maybe we can do something to add a little bit of flair to it. So again, with Photoshop skills in a pouring afternoon, I just sat there and added, Christmas hats to each of them. A couple of them have elf ears, and just added something, put that out there. And it exploded. It went. People just laughing their butts off and talking about it. And every time we would get an arrest or something like that, I'd throw out the word bingo and just on our top 10 list, and the bingo thing kind of took off. So come January, I did another one that had hats on them for party hats for New Year's. And I created a bingo card and put all of them on there. I had to use a lot of math to figure out, how to position everybody. And essentially, as they were being arrested, we would put the arrested mark on there, update. Yeah.
The same ones.
Yeah. So everybody's on there twice because 10 has to be divisible through 25. So you have 5 free squares and then the other 20. And so we actually made a couple of bingos on this one, and with that, I got some sponsorships for gift cards, and I mailed out gift cards to people that shared and liked the post, and so several of them got Free gift cards from Alley Cats, $20 gift card for and some free bowling for an hour.
Yeah,
and,
I got a couple of those at the chamber. I'm going to use it.
Dude, it's so great. And Alley Cats, Davey over at Alley Cats, she's amazing, absolutely amazing.
Well, I've heard a lot of good things about it because if somebody go by like myself, go by myself. That's not really the gig, but I could go with some friends my age and bowl and whatnot. Well, you know what really bugs the crap out of me though? I'm looking at this thing. I hate it when they smile in their mugshots. What are you smiling about?
To give you the background on this, the majority of the ones that are smiling in their photos, this is actually their driver's license. So you're sitting there at the DMV, you've been in line for 6 hours, and then some crotchety old lady that's been there at the DMV since the word DMV was invented says, "Smile, I'm taking your photo," and this is what it came up with. Because a lot of times, because they are under a felony warrant, we haven't arrested them yet. They've got a warrant for their arrest, so we identify them through their driver's license photo.
Well, I've seen some that are mug shots and they're smiling at them. I'm like,
and
what's the matter with you guys?
Sometimes you're happy, and sometimes you're just high as a kite. So you're doing,
I guess that's true, but I see wanted for multiple murders, and he's sitting there smiling. I'm like, okay, dude.
Well, and that probably gives a lot to his character if he's smiling after multiple murders and he's been arrested.
Or other mug shots when they're looking really bad, looking at a tough guy,
God bless the if you've ever been through like a DARE program and you see the mug shot of the person the first time they got arrested for meth. And then the 16th time, So those are enough scare you straight types of things.
I did see one about this woman who'd been arrested like 17, 20 times for meth, and she was pretty decent looking in the first photo. The last one is like she'd been dead for 2 years.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just awful.
Absolutely. And we've had a few on here that you can look at and. We're not making any judgment calls, but drugs may be a part of their life.
It's possibility.
Maybe in a past life or the current one or whatever it may be.
It's kind of a separate note, though. You told me before the show you can go see our friends over at the chamber with Melissa and Sarah.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And it's always entertaining, isn't it?
That is a goof troop in itself.
Yes, I always enjoy it when they come on the show because I go and say, "Hey, how you doing?" and they take over the show.
Yeah. You don't have to say a whole lot in between.
But anyway, the point I'm making is I've seen that poster that Melissa's in about calling for a victims assistance program.
Correct.
I've seen that more and more often now. I saw it at Daydream. I saw it where my wife gets her hair done with Tanny Birchfield. They have a salon over on Ellison.
Yes,
I've seen it in. I've seen it in most of the places they have like one bathroom. I mean, because it's not in the men's bathroom very often. Even you should almost, but I don't know if you have the resources to just put them in every bathroom. But I was thinking, if I walked in and I was guilty of what somebody would be needing victims assistance for, and I saw that sign and said, wait a minute, I might get exposed here, if I continue to act like a jackass like I am.
Yeah, there's that train of thought. We have put them in either the unisex bathroom, if that's all you have, or the female stalls in the restroom. Our thought, and we know men are abused in victims assistance or in domestic violence situations as well, whether it be physical, mental, financial, technological, whatever the abuse may be. However, the large majority tends to fall on the female side.
I would imagine, but you're right though. From what I've read, and it's not a lot, but I have teachers went through training about look for signs of abuse, and it was almost always physical, and almost always the victim was female. But they said no, you need also look at the other side. It could be a male getting abused by his mother or some other female in his life, and because you're not going to hit your mother, he's just taking the beating, and stuff like that, and so
Well, and like what we discussed earlier when we were talking about the sponsors, people of certain generations don't report a lot of things. Men, regardless of generation, tend to keep a lot of that in check, especially somebody who's old enough to be married. A lot of times the abuse is more mental than it is physical. There's a lot of what's the best political way I can say this? I'm just going to say the nagging aspect of it, where it's a constant in your face. but you're a good enough person not to hit her or push back, and she knows that, and so she's able to take advantage of that and continue to push in, even if it does get physical. Where it's usually physical is not where you see a male-female side of things, where he's just constantly beating on her, but maybe she slaps him in the face, or she pushes him, or pulls his hair. Those, we understand that is out there, but when we put this program together, we wanted to concentrate on the majority, and we're working on programs for the male side of things. It's just a lot more difficult. These are in female stalls. Females go to the restroom in a stall. I mean, that's it.
Right.
90% of the restroom visits that guys are going to have, you're standing and you're walking away, and so
not at the same time. I hope.
If you're able to aim, that's a great talent you have.
I always remember the old Baylor football stadium, not the one there at McLean, but the one that replaced it with the Floyd Casey. The men's room was just one long stall.
Oh yeah,
you talk about
Cotton Bowl. I think it was still like that only a few years ago.
Yeah, and it's like a very communal experience. I mean,
I mean, the restrooms at Old Elk Stadium were just like that.
Ooh,
so,
how do we get on this anyway?
That's a good question.
But you know what's interesting to me is when you come and talk about training or whatever, there's so much overlap between the training I have and the training your policemen officers, men and women, go through. Because as we got older in our career and more things were kind of put in the school system for us to handle, it went away strictly from how to learn them good, but to also recognize signs of abuse, recognize signs of drug abuse, recognize signs of some sort of serious problem, or on and on. And so a lot of the training was not so much focused on how you present lessons or whatever else, but on dealing with students and psychological training and emotional training, and what happens if you have a kid that has a meltdown, or you find out their home life is terrible, or he's homeless, or whatever else. So that's what our training was in the last few years, more focused on.
I would even say that has been a shift in policing over, I don't know how the time frame, but taking policing from a reactionary to being proactive. So instead of showing up to a house where the abuse is happening, getting information out there so that you can recognize that type of abuse, educating your citizens, and that's honestly to turn all this back into what we started this topic on. That's 100% what I do with the social media, and the reason behind silly shark posts and bad guy bingo and those types of things is to not only to allow our officers to have a human side of things, of, hey, I can jump on a Facebook page by a police department, I can get some giggles out of it. But when we need to talk to our citizens in depth about something that's a serious issue, whether it's domestic abuse or teen suicide or the fentanyl problem in this nation, we have an audience that understands that, yes, we can laugh and we can giggle at hippos in an overpass, a flooded out area of Burleson, or sharks, or the bad guy bingo, but also this is a place where I can get information that I need to help me in my daily life, to recognize things that maybe I didn't understand. A lot of the women that we see in abusive situations, when they see the poster, there's Melissa in the poster. She's sitting in a corner, her head's down. She seems defeated, but you can't tell whether that's a physical abuse, whether that's a mental abuse, and that's the whole point.
Her hair hides her face.
Yes, exactly. But the back wall is written. I think there's 32 different types of abuse that I had written on the back wall that poster. We've had constant calls from women who say, I didn't even I thought domestic violence was putting hands on you, and because of that, I've never had the courage to call to say he abuses me financially, doesn't allow me to use the checkbook, I'm withheld from that, or He uses the kids as a mental barrier to stop us from being able to do this or that, or he's just constantly putting me down. There's no physical abuse, but the mental abuse behind it. And so, as we educate and try to get out there in the community to warn people and to educate people about this. That helps on the proactive side, where maybe we don't have to show up to a home that there's a physical abuse problem, because we were able to bring them in prior to something bad happening. And if we can do that across the board, teach parents to look for signs of drug abuse in their home. Teach parents to parent and talk to their kids about situations that are happening that they may not feel comfortable going to the parent, but the parent, if they can come to them and help get them the help, then we're not dealing with showing up to another house where a child has committed suicide.
Well, it's amazing, isn't it, how parents can be pretty much oblivious to what's going on with their children.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Like when my kids were growing up, I want to give them a little bit of space, a little bit of privacy, but and sometimes I got pushback for being too nosy, and my response to my kids for being too nosy was tough. That's just too bad, Jack. Sorry, not your Jack, but it is too bad that, we're going to be nosy. And so was her mother. But a lot of people that I dealt with, not a lot, that's an exaggeration, a few people. Because most of the parents I dealt with were fine. My experience with BISD parents was almost always good. But when I had a situation, they're doing badly in school, and I let them know that, their parents sometimes had no idea that their kids are doing poorly in school, nor did they even know, in many cases, what the kids are taking.
Yeah.
Like, I'm your kid's history teacher. Oh, how nice. I mean, I knew the names of all my son's teachers and daughter's teachers. Of course, they're in the building, so it's easier. But I'm just saying that a lot of people are oblivious to what's going on in their loved ones' lives, and they're shocked when they find out, you mean my wife is having these issues, or my son is having these issues. I'm like, you're in the house. How could you not know? You'd be surprised.
I would say that and I hate going to the extremes in all of this, but these are the extremes are what causes the change in the outcry. But I guarantee our detectives have never showed up to a house where a child has committed suicide, adult has committed suicide, where the family walked in and went, oh, well, it was just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Every single one of them they're shocked that something like this could happen.
Yes.
And a lot of the mourning is the not knowing, not realizing. If I had stepped in, if I had done something, could I have stopped it? And that's unfortunate, but that's also why we really use a biblical term here, but we preach over and over and over to be involved in your kids' lives, to look at their phones, to pay attention to see what's happening, to look for small signs that you may not be aware of, but we have teachings and trainings that allow us to teach parents, hey, look for these types of things. Be involved in your kids' life. Talk to them about things. And that goes not only for the teenagers, but that goes all the way up through adulthood. What is your spouse dealing with? What what is your mom, your grandmother dealing with? Because it's not just a one generational thing; it's across the board.
Well, it's like, also, fortunately, we even had this kind of situation with the school shootings. It's almost always the parents had no idea that their son is capable. I did read one. There was a female perpetrator just recently, which is very, very unusual. But the point is, it almost always is a young male, right?
Right.
And it's like, and they bring in the parents, like, oh, you had no idea. But they had guns everywhere, and the kid had weird crap on his wall and was looking up these horrible looking websites and whatever else, and the parents were oblivious to all of that. I'm like, how could you be? But there you go.
But it happens.
Yes.
And it's becoming more commonplace than less.
Well, parents, I think the ones that have this happen, or have kids that go off the rails a bit, they're trying to give their kid, they think, a lot of latitude to grow and all this other stuff. But sometimes they need to be kept within a certain boundaries. And and as a teenager, you and I both chafed into those boundaries.
Yeah.
Just like my kids chafed, just like yours did, and do, I guess.
Right.
But that's just the way it is. That's just part of the parenting gig, is you're going to have kids that don't like you sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're not their friend, you're their parent. And I wish, I'm not talking about an abundance of examples in my career Because, like I said, most of the parents I dealt with were fine. I mean, their kids were pretty good students. Sometimes, I had to, bring them back into line. There's a couple that need a little bit more than just that. But as far as, there's some that I thought, I just hope this guy doesn't end up in jail.
Yeah.
And, or whatever. Or this young lady doesn't end up in some terrible situation because she has no guidance at home. I know, but you see that in your ministry as well, don't you?
Yeah, I think I think it's more often especially when my wife and I were still in youth ministry, that the kids that came were, especially in our last few years, the kids that started to show up at youth were more on the I have a problem and I need guidance, and we ended up becoming kind of the parent, where we would talk about things that that they didn't even realize some of the goods and bads on situations and choices that they were making.
Yeah,
and that's hard because I preach this all the time. We only got them for 90 minutes a week. Right. I mean, how can you look at the rest of the week and say all those other influences aren't going to trump what you've done in those 90 minutes? But in those 90 minutes, we would try to pour in as much just love and being there for them as we possibly could. But there were points we stopped teaching. We just started loving on kids and just being there and listening to them. And they don't have people that will listen to them and not judge them and not hate them because of their choices. And when we started doing that in our ministry, we saw change in these kids' lives. It's not a man, those are tough. Those are so tough.
Oh yeah.
Because once they leave or they go home and they say, "Hey, I don't think I should do this stuff anymore," and the parent's like, "Well, you can do whatever you want," and they're almost against how we would minister to them. And in those cases, I mean, that's just tough because it's your parent or it's your guardian or it's your influence, and I only get them 90 minutes.
As an older man now, I'm always, I become over the years more and more appreciative of the way my parents raised me, which at the time when I was 16, I thought, I was in boot camp or something like that. But there's so many blessings I had from the way what my parents provided and how they provided it and what they, strove to do and building my character and things like that, that I saw at some of the kids' lives potential for real good things for them, really good things could happen for them, but they had no discipline. And so it was like, talented kids that were barely passing class or kids were making terrible decisions about drugs or alcohol and all that. And it really got to the point where I just thought, I need to go tell my parents thank you. And I did many years ago.
Nothing sobered my life up more than the time I spent in the military, especially in the Corps, because there was never a moment where somebody wasn't yelling at you for something. And as much as you hated it, especially as a boot, as a young Marine, private PFC, Lance Corporal, when you became an NCO and you started having to give direction, then you started to realize all the reasons why everybody that was always in your face, it made sense because now you have a responsibility for lives. It's not just about getting a person to work. It's about keeping that person alive. And sometimes to do that, you have to be very direct in how you respond to them. And of course, it's the Corps, so it's kind of fun to yell at people. But,
yes, and I'm sure it was very well-mannered, time to get up, sir.
Yes.
Son, will you get up and do this, please?
The word please was used so often.
Is that so hard to ask, drill sergeant, please? I had a friend, you may remember John Mitchell.
Yeah.
He was, God rest his soul, he's been gone about 20 years now. And he would tell us that the scenes from Full Metal Jacket, those scenes of
boot
camp training, they were exceptionally accurate.
This is my rifle. This is my gun.
Yeah, right. He was also saying that guy actually was probably less profane than what he had encountered. So gosh,
it's I think it's a little bit of a kinder, gentler Marine Corps, but not by much. I mean, it's Yeah, Lee Emery did a great job as a drill instructor in that
Well, he
movie.
was, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was a core.
Yeah.
So
He was a drill instructor, and what I understand is Kubrick hired him to train the actor,
correct.
and then he said, "I'll just take this guy instead."
Yeah. I don't think the actor was comfortable doing a lot of the things and yelling the way. And I think Lee took it from there. And good old, God rest your soul, Gunny. God rest your soul.
Well, let's finish up.
Yeah.
Josh, you still tinkering around back there?
Yeah, Josh has been moving like nobody's business
what's
in the
going on
back.
back there?
I don't think we've been on this entire time.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
I'm switching the cameras still. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Well, you're doing a great job.
Well, I was going to talk about the radio stations. Okay, so
Yeah, we can
let's
get
talk
that
about
going.
one of them. I'm going to be talking to on Thursday afternoon. No, the other one, please.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. The Journey.
Hey, old Rich.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm on the show Thursday afternoon.
Gotcha.
We were supposed to be on yesterday, but our schedules conflicted, so we're going to.
Rich is actually hooking us up with some airtime too to talk about the posters program.
Right, and he's going to what he's going to do for me is that he's going to say this week on Mr. Allard's Neighborhood, they'll promote you, they'll promote himself, I guess, and then next week. Have Greg Cooper on. Do you know Mr. Cooper by any chance?
I know the moving.
Greg Cooper is kind of our local tax expert, if you will.
Oh, hey, good to go.
You talk about
I definitely need to.
property taxes and things like that. And then Tuesday, I have the Amanda Man, say again, got some Amanda Man Clark project, which is about colorectal cancer, which I want to talk about there. So you can put the community radio on. This will be on community radio tonight at 6. If the technology's there,
I know Josh is doing a good job back
yeah,
there.
no, well, he's doing the best he can. Taylor's out there having a good time and whatnot. But it'll be on community radio, and so will all the shows. And it's slowly building an audience. I was
good.
Yesterday was my best day in terms of numbers.
awesome.
It's nothing that I don't think is going to impress many people yet, but it's just slowly pulling up, and So let's hope.
As long as the next day is better than the one prior.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, and I'm hoping people will say, I like this music, and I like the fact I can get a few updates. And it's not like I'm giving an update on the Ukraine situation or whatever. I'm talking about, like I mentioned, the police station, and in fact, Larry Scott's back in business, so to speak.
He's doing he looked great. The last time we saw him, so he's doing an awesome job.
Burleson Buzz did a really good interview with me. I mean, Cody wrote a really good article.
I like Cody. I like him a lot.
Yeah, and so that's on the Burleson Buzz, and I mentioned that as well. But Josh, you going to survive?
I'll try my best.
Okay.
This show is like a duck on water. You and I look amazing, and Josh has made us look absolutely fabulous. But if you could see the feet of the duck paddling underwater in the background where Josh is right now,
and by that you mean me crawling under the desk?
There's been some movement in the corner of our eye this whole time.
Sorry if I'm distracting.
No. We're in the zone. All right. So anyway, I'll see you all Thursday afternoon with Rich, and thanks for bearing with us.
All right.
We'll see you next time.